Hi and welcome to week 5 of the Kindness Project. I'm joined with Charlotte, a girl so cool. She's recording a podcast with her dad. How you doing, Charlotte? You right?
And I'm with Chris, the man with so much tech, electricity probably runs through his veins.
You know what? I don't think I've got that much tech. I mean, all right, I've got computers and gaming machines and a podcast mic and I've got a lot of tech. All right, that's fair enough. But one of the good news stories out of that is we get to record a podcast together because we've got a decent podcast mic. So
I don't see the issue with sitting here with my dad recording a podcast.
It's what all the cool kids are doing, I think.
I don't think so, but I'm not one of the cool kids anyway.
Who wants to be cool?
Who wants to be cool when you can be smart?
Cool is overrated, right?
Exactly.
Cool is overrated. So, as you probably know by now, this is the Kindness Project, where we share stories of kindness. Share stories of kindness. I don't know where that voice comes from. I think that was my Sean Connery impression. Share stories of kindness, where we share stories of kindness with our listeners, but we want to hear from you. We want to hear your stories of kindness, who we should speak to, who you think are particularly kind, so we can share those stories with the world, our listeners. I think the world might be a bit of an exaggeration at this point, but
I mean, if the whole world wants to listen, go ahead.
Why not? Why not? And why not? And the format always is, we have a brief introductory chat where we have question of the podcast. No, question of the podcast, isn't it? Or is it question of the week?
You said question of the week last time, so I was like...
Okay. Where we have question of the week. Your turn.
Okay, question of the week!
Your one's better. So we're going to have question of the week coming up in a minute. I bet you're massively excited about that. Then we share kindness news. So there's stories from around the world of things that are kind. And then we have a main event. So the main event is going to be where we dig deep into a concept around kindness, or we interview somebody who's particularly kind. Why are you laughing so much? We're recording this. I've got a little home office at my house, and we can just see our dog just playing in the back garden. Let's call it playing. So this week's question, focus, Charlotte, focus.
Sorry.
This week's ignore Dexter playing in the garden. This week's question, if I can find it, is question of the week. What is the most inspiring movie ever? Now, listeners, while Charlotte's thinking about this, we want to hear your most inspiring movie ever. What movie inspires you the most? And it can inspire you to spend more time with the people you love, to be kinder, to be happier, to work harder. But what is the most inspiring movie ever? Charlotte, your answer.
I don't know. I think if I had to pick a movie that I've watched recently, I think we watched Bridge of Spies in history, and that was quite inspiring because no matter how many times they said to him, your mission is just to get that one man home, and he kept saying, no, I'm going to get both of them home. I'm going to trade both of them for this one guy. And he wasn't just helping the two guys he was taking back, he was helping the one guy he was getting back to his own country.
Gotcha.
Because they had become friends.
So that's a Steven Spielberg movie, isn't it? Is it Tom Hanks in it?
Yeah. And he wasn't just helping the people from his country, he was helping the people on the other side of it's a movie set in the Cold War.
Yeah.
And it's called The Bridge of Spies because the Russians, they had a spy called Gary Powers, and I can't remember the student's name, but he got captured by one of the German republics.
Okay.
And they said, we're not going to let him go until we get...
So what makes it so inspiring?
It was sort of the fact that he never gave up.
Gotcha.
Everyone kept saying to him, no, you just get the one guy and you go home.
Gotcha.
And he kept going, no, I'm going to get both.
Yeah.
And I'm going to get this one guy from this other country which has missiles really close to us and nearly started a nuclear war with us to his home.
Gotcha.
And I think the fact that he was willing to fight for both sides.
Yeah. So
despite
so
having such a pride in his family.
So he had an internal sense of fairness that made him a hero. But Tom Hanks is good at playing like everyday heroes, isn't he? I mean, that's what he does. Have you ever seen The Terminal?
No.
So it's about a guy who flies to America. And there's a civil war in his country and he can't get actually into America and he gets stuck at the airport. But I think out of like sort of everybody, and we were talking about this the other day, there's two actors that spring to mind who play everyman characters really well. Tom Hanks and Martin Freeman.
Yes.
He's got the ability to convey emotion just as an ordinary bloke. Just fantastically well. I love it.
I think if you're looking for an actor who's like really good, I think David Tennant's a good actor because he does play both sides of the scale. He can be a superhero if he wants to, but he can also be a supervillain. Like Jessica Jones, he was the villain in that, but he was also the Doctor, and I think they're quite opposite sides of the spectrum, and yet he pulls off both quite perfectly.
I agree. So I if I was to answer that question, I'd suggest that there's bits of films that are inspirational. And there's an old, it's not that old, but I don't know if you would have seen it. There's an Oliver Stone film called Any Given Sunday.
I haven't seen it, no.
And it's an American football film. And Al Pacino does this speech at the end about him being a middle-aged man, but he's trying to inspire these young American football athletes. I mean, we all know that American football is not football. I mean, that's like sort of that doesn't need to be said.
Yeah, but they can say that because we call it football, and then we call theirs American football, but we call what they call football American football. What they have football, which is obviously our American football, and they have soccer.
You've just confused me. I knew that they called it soccer, but yeah.
But it's like they have like a completely different name for it.
Yeah.
So who knows where that's come from?
Don't know. But yeah, so the speech at the end of Any Given Sunday is probably one of the most inspirational 3 minutes of movie. But then you've got movies like It's a Wonderful Life. That is a roller coaster up and down story. Yeah. That has a redemptive ending from a guy who's seen the lowest of the low and then comes back.
There was this movie, I can't remember what it's called. I saw the trailer for it.
That's helpful. That's useful.
But it was about this guy and his son was part of this school, and the school dug up one of those time capsules that the school had buried like 50 years ago. And he had this letter from one of the previous students, and in it was this list of numbers. Yeah. And the man took the list of numbers and he tried to figure out what it all meant, because obviously since opening the letter something had happened to his son. And he figured out that the list of numbers were disasters that were going to happen. Dates, times, and how many people were going to be killed.
Oh, no, that's... Right, but I think I know...
There was one scene in it where they were on the train, and he tried to save people, and they wouldn't listen to him. Right. And he tried to save this woman and her baby, and he said, get off with your child. Yeah. And I think that's quite inspirational, that he tried to save them, so even though he put himself in danger.
He was quite selfless. The problem I've got with that, Charlotte, is I've got a funny feeling, and listeners, if you know what film this is, please do let us know. I've got a feeling that film's got Nicolas Cage in. Yes, it does. It is Nicolas Cage in that film, right?
Yes.
So Nicolas Cage is one of the actors that, for me, ruins most movies. Now, he's been in 2 good movies, Con Air. No, 3. He's been in The Rock, Con Air, and Face Off. And they were 3 awesome films. But everything else he's in is shockingly bad. But obviously you enjoyed it.
I liked that movie, yeah.
Okay, cool.
But it probably had a bigger impact on me because I saw it when I was younger. Yeah. And obviously I didn't care about actors back then. I just cared about the story. Yeah. I still don't really care about actors. I just care about the story.
I don't. Listen, I'll give every actor a chance. Every actor in the world, every actor in the universe has a chance.
So if
apart from Nicolas Cage.
So if an alien came to you and said, "I want to take part in Macbeth,"
I'm cool with that. I think we should see more aliens in Macbeth and Shakespeare and I'd like to see a Martian Romeo and Juliet. I think that'd be good, as long as it didn't contain Nicolas Cage, because that would be a step too far.
Aren't you being a bit unfair to Nicolas Cage?
Look, I'm sure he's got his fans, right? I'm sure some people like him. I'm not a big fan of Nicolas Cage. And on that note, let's talk a little bit about kindness, shall we? Just not to Nicolas Cage. Should we move on to the next scene?
Yeah.
Cool.